What if I told you that men are not created equal, that they are not fundamentally good, and that there are serious and significant differences between men and women? What if I told you that the stars do indeed determine your fate, and that if you are destined to be rich, you will become rich, but if you are destined to be poor, you will stay poor all of your life? These statements seem controversial, yet are they? You might be surprised to find out that everything I have said in the intro wouldn't have been even remotely controversial just 100 years ago. It would have been simply accepted as fact, because that's the way people viewed the world. In fact, the entire idea of all men being equal, of men and women being the same, and of us being able to change our destiny have come up only recently. It's not something that has been there since the beginning of time. It's something that was invented, and not too long ago. Now, being invented doesn't mean it isn't true. It might just as well be true, but let's look around us and try to figure out if it is. Now, if we look at NBA players and people who suffer from dwarfism, are they actually the same? Are they equal? When it comes to basketball, obviously not. The same can be said about people with extremely high IQ and people who suffer from mental retardation. When we look at how both of them function in society, it is obvious that the people with the higher IQ have an advantage. The same goes for men and women. There are obvious physical differences. Women are on average weaker because they have lower testosterone levels. They are on average lower in height, and there is far less variation in the IQ levels of women as opposed to men. Now, on the surface, these differences are not too extreme, yet if you are trying to hire based on physical ability, then of course you would hire more men than you would women, just because men are usually stronger and more physically able. That's a simple biological fact. Now, these statements are not only verifiable by simple observation, but also by every scientific study made on these subjects. Yet, somehow, they are currently considered improper, politically incorrect, controversial. The whole notion behind all human beings being the same is a product of the socialist ideology, socialism. Now, it's not an inherently bad idea. Unfortunately, it doesn't conform to reality, and the clash between the facts one can see and the ideology itself is what led to the whole political correctness fiasco that we see today. And the reason we are discussing it right now is that it has influenced astrology as well. In fact, it is quite a substantial part of modern Western astrology. To begin with, let's look at the concept of malefics, or cruel planets. Well, it is quite vital to interpret the influence each planet has, yet it has been all but extinguished in Western astrology. In fact, quite a few astrologers have stated to me that the concept is too archaic, it should be thrown out. Well, let's be honest. When was the last time you saw that Jupiter was the cause of a car accident or of a beheading? That's the realm of Mars. If we are talking about some restriction, some limitation that a person has, that's the realm of Saturn, not of Venus. So you cannot say that every planet is the same. They have different functions, they have different symbolism, and that is crucial if you are trying to correctly interpret a chart. And when it comes to interpretations, it gets even worse, because nowadays it is considered unethical to claim determinism in astrology, to say that what one sees in the chart is what will actually happen. Now, this is absolutely absurd, because the whole premise of astrology is being able to predict events, or at least predict outcomes, when you know when something has begun. In fact, if you throw out determinism, then even the most basic ideas, such as astrology being able to predict someone's character traits, become untenable. Because if astrology is non-deterministic, then these traits are malleable and the chart doesn't mean anything. It has literally zero relevance to the person being discussed. Now, just to be clear, there's a huge difference between astrology being non-deterministic and an astrologer's ability to be wrong, because we are all human. We can all make mistakes, and one shouldn't say that what one sees in the chart is gospel, because again, one can misinterpret something or miss some element that changes the whole picture. But that is not the claim that is being made. Unfortunately, the current claim is that astrology itself does not determine anything. And the reason that this claim is being made is to avoid conflict with the concept of free will, the ability of an individual to overcome the circumstances. Now, I have discussed the matter of fate versus free will in a separate video. You can find the link below. But in general, I would say that the whole notion that if astrology is non-deterministic, then you solve the problem, is simply not true. You actually made it far, far worse. Because then, instead of astrology being an explanatory tool, something that helps us understand what's going on, it becomes an irrelevant tool that you can simply ignore. Now, the justification given to dismissing the concept of cruel and malefic planets is that it doesn't work, or that it doesn't represent the whole picture, which is quite true, but it is so just because it is used inappropriately, often being a scapegoat to what is actually going on. But at the same time, the truth behind the matter is that this claim is not about how accurate the description is. It's all about the prediction being less scary if you don't say, oh, you have a cruel planet, it's in such and such house, So this might indicate trouble. It is an attempt to dumb down the astrological symbolism, an attempt to make it more user-friendly, more cuddly. Suffice to say that this is a very bad idea in and of itself, because again, it simply throws out part of the toolkit that you have to predict something, but more importantly, it does not correspond to reality. It actually makes the whole structure of astrological symbolism far less stable, because you have basically said, oh, we don't have anything that corresponds to predators and prey as you might see in nature. It simply doesn't exist anymore. Now, in case you were wondering, this isn't an attack on astrologers that say that astrology isn't deterministic, or that cruel and malefic planets don't exist. That's not the point. The point was simply that if you are a beginner astrologer, then you are basically tying your hands behind your back when trying to use those concepts from the get-go. Also, if you are practicing medical astrology, then you are basically making yourself at least partially blind to what's actually going on. So sure, if someone does only readings about love and money, well, fine, dispense with the Malefics. Say that astrology is not deterministic. But if you are trying to get results, well, at least use the proper tools. I hope you'll find this video useful. Please like and subscribe. And if you wish to learn more about medical astrology and astrology in general, please check out my website. You'll find the link below. Thank you.